Hi, I'm Joyce Richmond, and I wanted to show you some fun designs that you can find in this book that use the Coiling Gizmo. They're little coiled jump rings that turn into a whole bunch of designs. I've done them right here. These are my own personal designs, but the technique is shown in the book. And these are the little knots that I'm going to show you how to make. But then as you get more advanced, or you get more creative, you can then create your own designs using the Coiling Gizmo. So let's get a look at what's going on. In the gizmo itself is a piece of 14 gauge wire, and I've got 20 gauge wire that I am wrapping around the 14 gauge so that I can come up with a jump ring that's going to look like this. So this is really your coiled jump ring. So in order to do that, this guy right here. Inside the coils is 14 gauge wire, and it's being coiled with 20 or 24 or 26, whichever you want. Okay? So what I've got going here is the 14 gauge inside the Coiling Gizmo, and I've got silver hanging down, and it all gets attached inside this chuck. So you coil around, and as you can tell, it is coiling your wire, the higher gauge wire, around the lower gauge wire. And what you're doing is you're actually giving it body so that when you use it to turn it into a jump ring, it's all one unit. What I do is I close them up together so that it's nice and tight. And then you just take it off. And I cut the ends off. And you want a bail making plier, whatever diameter you want. I tend to like the larger size, this side of the bail making plier, and you just put it between the jaws and twist. And you keep going until you have finished twisting all of your wire in a circle. I have a larger piece that I can show you. Here it is in turquoise. So I started coiling it, and if I put it back in, I can continue coiling it. Until all of the higher gauge wire is coiled around the bail making plier, and you end up having something that looks like this. So now you're going to take them apart and cut them like jump rings, just like all other jump rings. I start where at the end of the turquoise 20 gauge and do a cut. And I want a flush cut, right? So I turn it around, and I use that as my gauge to make my second cut. And I have a jump ring. So what these are in the necklaces are jump rings connected to one another. So let's see, I have a turquoise, a red, two reds, and a turquoise. So I connect these, turn them into jump rings, and connect the ends. So that at the end you actually have a jump ring, like so. And I'll put a red one through them. Open it up. Put the red one through it. Close it back up. And then to create that particular knot of the design that you've seen in the book, you hold them together. There's a hole there in the middle through which I put my third jump ring. And I close it up. And I have one of these knots. And you can use it in all kinds of designs. It is so much fun, just like that. And that's what's in these. I did a little design of all these knots that I hung from a chain. And you can use them in the middle of necklace designs, which I've done over here. Now this actual design is in the book as a project. And you use beads of whatever millimeter size you have. And in between the beads are these knots. And this is a series of 3 knots held together that makes color pop between the beads. I've done the same thing up on here. I am now in love with these little knots. They are so interesting and so easy to make. And I love stuff that looks sophisticated and interesting yet easy to make. Don't we all, right? Okay, so now let me show you an idea of variation on the theme, which would be this little guy down here. And that is coil on top of coil on top of coil. So I will take I'll take a mandrel, and I'll put a mandrel into the chuck. This is the mandrel I'm going to use. And I'll put it into the chuck. And your coiling gizmo comes with a variety of sizes of mandrels. So pick the one that you want. And I have this wire. This is 24, 26 gauge wire here that I'm going to be twirling around the mandrel. But what I've added to it is a coil that I've made earlier. I have added it to the end of this wire, and I'm going to feed that on to the mandrel, when I want it to be there. So I put this in. Let's see. I put this in. I create an L. I feed it into the mandrel and start turning, just like I would do normally. See, I'm just adding coil. Then I decide I want to add my silver coil on, so I feed that up. And now I just turn that around. Feed that around the mandrel. And then close with my turquoise. And you get this cool design in the middle. And then you can keep building on that. You can make it longer, you can make it shorter, you can bend it, you can put chain through it. There's a variety of design techniques you can use with these coils. So I hope you'll enjoy your coiling gizmo and you come up with all these designs. You can find them in the Rustic Wrappings book, which I highly recommend because I've made a number of those designs in there, and have fun with your tool.